Okay, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. Thank you very much for Elecnor Foundation for the invitation, for Elecnor Demos as well. I think it's a very unique opportunity. Okay, that's okay. Yesterday was really fantastic for me on a personal and professional level to be with all of you and to be with our colleagues here to get this unique insight into space. Here we have people who are working in space every day, and we have a person who's actually been into space, so that's really something that we don't get to have every single day. I'd also like to thank the students, everyone else here. Thanks to the people here, we can do what we want to do as a business, which is Booster, and thanks to you, we have a future that we can talk about. So it's very, very important for us to have your participation. I'd also like to say that from Estia, Booster, we actually have 2 students working on our project through our other Spanish partner, Enova, who are actually, they're working on design and structural design. So I would like to say to the students, do dream, do think that this is possible, and you can have a future in space or in aviation or wherever you'd like to work. I also liked yesterday particularly Paul and Stephen's contribution talking about space technically, but also talking about the values and the teamwork involved. And that's something that being part of a small company, I feel as well. And for the students as well, if you can be part of a project that you can be passionate about, you can be with partners and team that you can be motivated with, you can do almost anything. And also, you can have that pleasure of working in something you really believe in. I mean, for me, I've been involved in space for a couple of years now. I'm not an engineer. I'm on the business side. It's an honor for me to be in this area. I learn a lot every day. And our role as a smaller commercial company is to make access to space possible. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. Not being an engineer, I'm going to talk more about the market. Okay? So if we talk about the market, the first question I'd like to ask all of you, who would like to go in space? We have one person who's here. Who would like to go into space? Okay, so I think we agree that all of us would like to get there, but until now only about 500 people have done that, and private people have done that, but at a cost of around $30 million or more. So that's an awful lot of money. So in my presentation, which I promise to be brief because I think the important part is that we discuss this together, is that it's important to know about the willingness and the ability to pay. And as a small company, we've worked a lot to get that type of market data. So when we think about space, we have a lot of images in our mind. We think a lot about the future. It seems a bit far away. For you guys, not so much because you're engineering students. So for us, there's a very big difference. For us, the technology for what we want to do, which is suborbital flight, has been with us since the early 60s. So we've asked ourselves, why haven't we been able to offer this to the wider public? What's been the problem? And basically, the problem has been market access and making this affordable. Affordable for the tourist, but also affordable to companies who would like to do experiments there. We're talking about pharma, biotech, and even electronics companies. About Booster, I mean, what we're trying to do, and yesterday Miguel talked about Booster and showed our simulation, we're building a suborbital platform, and the idea is to take 2 pilots, 8 passengers, and payloads. For us to be a business, we have to diversify our offer, so we're not just talking about tourism, we're also talking about experiments in space, but at a cost that hasn't been available beforehand. It's important to say that we're not an investment company who've decided to get into space. Booster is made up, apart from myself, the majority are engineers. So these are engineers who are very pragmatic, who've seen that the technology has been available, and through our consortium, our partners such as Elecnor Demos, they give us the technology to make what we want to do happen. So we're not developing our own technology, which is quite a big difference to our peers in the market. We're actually bringing that technology together through our partners who have a lot of heritage experience in that space. As I said before, we have passion for space, we have passion for the team, and that's why the values, beliefs, and motivation are important, and that's something that I loved hearing yesterday from especially Paul, Stephen, and Pedro. What we want to do, we want to sell tickets at a starting price which is accessible for the market. So we have the tourism, we have the science, we have access to science for companies who haven't afforded it before. So our idea is, how do we do that? We do it through Suborbital. We'll give you a little bit of space for a lot less money. Of course, in the beginning, we're talking about something which is quite an exclusive offer. We're talking around $200,000, and for us to launch in around 2016, 2017, but we spent 6 years preparing for this. We would like, our ambition is not to make lots of money. We want to be a sustainable business, but we do want to facilitate space access, and we'd like to become like an airliner to bring the price down very quickly. As I said before, we lead an international consortium, and in Spain is very important to us. We have industrial partners who are Lecnodemos, we have Enova, and also for us, Spain is important as a possible launch site. Because of certain regulations regarding our propulsion technology, which comes from America, and it's actually military technology, it comes from Pratt & Whitney, probably our first launch site will be the US, but we've been working hard in Spain to also think of Spain as a launch site. We have a very big pool of talent of young people and engineers here, like yourselves. We have very good sites for possible launch. There are a lot of public assets that have been built that are underutilized, which we'd like to use. And Spain is a wonderful tourist destination. So for us, it's very clear, for us to bring space to the normal man, we have to create a sustainable business. And to create that, we have to understand the market. So we spend a lot of time researching about the market, and we'll talk about that. And if we can understand the market, then we can invite private investors to get involved. We know that the space programs can be quite precarious, especially in this economic time, because public money is lacking. So we are looking mainly at around 80% private investment, so we have to make it exciting for them. We have to make a business case. We have to understand our possible clients. But we would say the mix would be around 80 private and 20 public, because we do want to create a business that can stand by itself so it has a future, a clearer future. Safety is very important to us, and that's why we're using proven technology. We're using technology that's been with us basically from the 60s. Also, certification is very important, and we've been talking to the European side, ESA, and the American side, the FAA, since we started. So our ideal would be to have a dual approach on both the European and American side, and we're working hard on that. Our design is fairly complete. We have a pre-design, and we've adjusted our design to what the market tells us, as in the mix of how many tourists we take up, how many experiments we take up. So we haven't started to build hardware. Now we're speaking to investors to have the money to build hardware, because that costs an awful lot. To give you an example, Virgin Galactic has spent around $1 billion so far or more in developing their project. We hope that they start next year, but they have a lot of delays because they're building proprietary propulsion technology, which is very difficult to make it work and make it safe. But we wish them luck, because if they start, they're creating an industry which we'd like to be a part of. There's a nice quote from Jess Greason from up here, from XCore. He talked about trillion-dollar industry. Trillion-dollar industry not meaning the revenues from space tourists or actually the scientific experiments, but a trillion-dollar industry from what the opportunities that come out of space access. So if you can give space access to a biotech company, they can find a way to use it, they can develop their own industry. So that's where we see the massive potential. For us, as a small business, our return on investment is a bit of a longer scale. It could be around 7 to 8 years. But if we can get companies involved earlier, they can start to see the benefits also a lot quicker. So why are we talking about suborbital? It's quite clear. We've had the technology from the 60s. It's that little bit of space for a lot less money. It's the least expensive way into space. We can have frequent flights. Our idea is to have an airliner. So if we have a lot of flights, we can bring the cost down very quickly. Okay, launch on demand, we can say we can do it very quickly. As a smaller company, we hope to be a lot more flexible to adapt to the market because we're focused on the market because we're a private company and most of our money will come and comes from private investment. Also, on the other side, we talk about the scientific stuff. We need a diversified approach as a company. We can't just depend on the tourists. We also want to offer experiments at a lot lower price to companies. And there is some market data about the possible number of people who would become space tourists. This is not tested yet, but we have some indication, as was mentioned yesterday, where Virgin Galactic have 500 people who've paid deposits, and that's worth various millions of pounds. There is data from the Futron study, the Adventurous survey. So we talk of a forecast around 35,000 passengers in 2026. We'll have to see that to believe it. But what we understand is in the first phase, the people who want to do this, the money is not an issue. They want the experience. Our idea is to make that affordable, to have repeat flights into space to bring the price down as fast as possible. When we talk about market research, it's very important for us to create our business case. So we've worked extensively with people like Instituto de Empresa in Madrid and the Wharton Business School, and this is a segmentation of the market that we've actually discovered with them. So if we talk at the first level, at the top, we talk about the space pioneers, and basically these are the people who will do that experience and the costings are an issue. We're talking about high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals. They want that experience. They want to be some of the first people. And that's also played out through Virgin having around 500 deposits already. At the lower scale, we have the longer-term adopters, who are the people that want to go to space, like yourselves, when they can afford to do it. So if we look at general aviation, who could fly in a commercial aircraft in the early 50s? Very few people. But now, if I want to, I can see my family in London for 100 euros with EasyJet or Ryanair. So we imagine in maybe 30 years, suborbital will be very affordable for most people. Okay? And suborbital is at 100 kilometers, and you have a small experience of zero gravity over a few minutes. For booster, what we're aiming for is in the blue line, the first generation adopters. These are the people behind the pioneers, and we see it as a much bigger pool of clientele. Also, we want to tailor our offering to them and make it a very personalized experience. So part of our offering will be speaking to luxury brands to offer that unique experience to these customers. So we're thinking of people from emerging markets, business people. We've identified a big pool of possible clients. So if we talk about the booster mix, you know, the key ideas for us are about safety. We're using proven technology to do suborbital. We've had that technology from the 60s, as our colleagues are very aware. We're talking about affordable access to space, make it affordable, create opportunities through that, bring the cost down quickly. Then we can think about other bigger projects, not orbital yet. And for us, we want to create a unique experience for our business clients to do experiments and for our tourists so that we can create a sustainable business which is more privately invested than publicly invested. Okay? And then to end, there's a very famous image. This is the astronaut Dale Gardner. He said, you know, is space for sale? We say space is not for sale, but we have to enable the access to space. And I'd like to ask Paul and Stephen, were you on that mission, any of you?
How old do you think we are?
I hate to say it, but I was a part of that mission.
Okay. And that's a very famous image. That's a very famous image that's gone around the world. And there we have our web to have a look. So that's my part done. Thank you very much.